Dear students, in today's class I am going to solve one more problem on royalty accounts. Problem is already written here on the board. Just we will go through the problem and try to understand what is given here. Then after that we can solve it. Okay, Karnataka publishers agreed to take up the printing and sales of book from the author. Here author has given the right to publish the book to whom? To the Karnataka publishers. The following are the terms of royalty agreement. Here they have made the royalty agreement and the terms and conditions upon which both the parties have agreed are given here. Royalty payable at 20% on the sale price of the book. The book is printed at rupees 30 per copy. Here, as per the royalty agreement, royalty is to be paid to the author at 20% of the selling price of the book. Here selling price of the book is rupees 30 per copy. Therefore, 20% of rupees 30 is to be given as a royalty to the author. Next one is the author is to be paid the minimum amount of rupees 20,000 per annum. What is this? This is the minimum rent fixed by who? Fixed by the author. How much is the amount? Rupees 20,000 per annum per year. In case in the year actual royalty is less than the minimum rent, in that case the minimum rent of rupees 20,000 should be given to the author. Next one is each year's excess of minimum amount over the actual royalties is recoverable out of the royalties of the next 2 years. This is the information which is given about the recovery of short workings. If the short working is there in one particular year, in order to recover that short working, next 2 years time is given to the publishers. That is why here the publishers can recover the short workings of the earlier years out of the excess royalties in the next 2 years. The details are as under. Just you see what details are given here. In the year 2008, 3,000 books were printed and at the end of the year 250 were in stock, and in the year 2009 3,200 books were printed and number of copies in closing stock at the end of the year were 300, and in the year 2010 3,500 books were printed and 100 books were in stock at the end of the year, and in the year 2011 3,650 books were printed and 200 books were in stock at the end of the year. Prepare the royalty chart and pass the necessary journal entries. Here you are asked to prepare the royalty chart that is the table showing the calculation of royalty payable to whom? To the author. And also we have to pass journal entries as well. Okay, let us start the preparation of royalty chart. That is a table showing the calculation of royalty payable to the author. You have already studied the royalty chart. You know what are the important columns to be put in this table. First one is the year column. What to put? Year. Next one is number of copies sold. After that, we have to take actual royalty in rupees to put. Then after this we put minimum rent column. Next one is about the short workings. In this we put one column for deficit. Next column for recovery. This is recovery column. Next one is irrecovered column. Irrecovered column. And the last one is amount payable to the author. Amount payable we have to put as the last column. These are the important columns which we put in the table. Now, first thing what we have to do is, first we write the year 2008, 2009, 2010 and 2011. 4 years details are given here. 2008, 2009, 2010 and 2011. Dear students, try to understand here. The actual royalty is paid to the author on the basis of number of copies sold. Therefore, if the number of copies sold are more royalty will be given. If number of copies sold are less amount of royalty will go to the author. In case if the actual royalty is less than the minimum rent and the minimum rent is required to be given to the author. In this problem, what they have given, just we'll see. Number of copies printed and also closing stock is given. In the year 2008, 3000 copies were printed. You remember the royalty is given not on the basis of number of copies printed, but the royalty is calculated on the number of copies sold. That is why how to calculate the number of copies sold? It is simple thing. See, number of copies printed in the year were 3000 and 250 were in stock in the sense unsold copies lying with the publisher. Out of 3000, 250 were stock in the sense 2750 books were sold in the year 2008. Very simple thing. ಏನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಈ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ? ಪಬ್ಲಿಷರ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾನೆ, ಮೊದಲನೇ ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ 3000 ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳನ್ನ ಪ್ರಿಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾನೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ವರ್ಷದ ಕೊನೆಗೆ 250 ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳು ಪಬ್ಲಿಷರ್ ಹತ್ತಿರ ಇವೆ. ಇದರ ಅರ್ಥ ಏನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಆ ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ 2750 ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳನ್ನ ಮಾರಾಟ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿ ನಾವು ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಎದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿಯನ್ನು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು? ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳನ್ನ ಎಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರಿಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅದರ ಮೇಲೆ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಗಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಏನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ? ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿ ಪೇಯಬಲ್ at 20% ಆನ್ ದ ಸೇಲ್ ಪ್ರೈಸ್. Here, whatever the selling price is there, on that royalty is required to be calculated. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾರಾಟ ಬೆಲೆಯ ಮೇಲೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ? ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿಯನ್ನ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳನ್ನ ಮಾರಾಟ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಎಂಬುದು ಬಹಳ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದಂತ ಅಂಶ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿ ಟೇಬಲ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ದೀನಿ? ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಾಪೀಸ್ ಸೋಲ್ಡ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ರಿಟನ್. That is why here we have to calculate number of copies sold in the year 2008, 2009, 2010 and 2011. How to calculate this one? First we have to take 3000. See, in the first year, try to understand. In the first year, suppose you take the first year, number of copies printed 3000 minus closing stock. How much? 250. 2750 books were sold in the first year. This one I am going to write here. 2750. Very simple thing. Next one is in the year 2009. Try to understand here. Whatever closing stock was there in the previous year, that will become the opening for stock for the next year. 2008ರಲ್ಲಿ 250 ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳು ಮಾರಾಟವಾಗದೆ ಪಬ್ಲಿಷರ್ ಹತ್ರ ಇದ್ದು, ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಈ 250 ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಕ್ಲೋಸಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. 2008ರಲ್ಲಿ ಅವೇ ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳು 2009ರಲ್ಲಿ ಓಪನಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ ಆಗ್ತವೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಇನ್ ದ ಇಯರ್ 2009 ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಡೂ? ಫಸ್ಟ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಟೇಕ್ ದ ಕ್ಲೋಸಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಪ್ರೀವಿಯಸ್ ಇಯರ್ 250 as opening stock plus number of copies printed in that year 3200. We have to add 3200. Now total books with the publisher in the year 2009 were how much? 3450 3,450 books. Out of 3,450 books, still with the publisher, 300 copies are there in the closing stock at the end of the year 2009. ಈ ವರ್ಷದ ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಇನ್ನೂ 300 ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳು ಮಾರಾಟವಾಗದೆ ಪಬ್ಲಿಷರ್ ಹತ್ರ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಇದನ್ನ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಮೈನಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಮೈನಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಡಿಡಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ದಿಸ್ ಒನ್, ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ವಿ ಗೆಟ್, that amount is nothing but number of copies sold in the year 2009. In the year 2009, what we have to do? First, we have to take the opening stock plus number of copies printed in that year, and from that we have to deduct the closing stock. Then we get what? Number of copies sold in the year 2009. Simple calculation is that 3,150 books were sold in the year 2009. And in the year 2010, how many books were sold? That we have to calculate. Again, we have to see in the year 2009, whatever the closing stock was there, that closing stock will become the opening stock for the year 2010. 300 books were there in the stock. You see, in the year 2009, 300 books were there in stock. That will become the opening stock for the year 2010. Plus, we have to see the books printed in the year 2010. 3,500 books were printed. 3,500 means in the year 2010, total 3,800 books were there with the publisher for selling. But here, out of 3,800 books with the publisher at the end of the year 2010, 100 books were there. It means closing stock. Now, how many books were sold in the year 2010? 3,700. Means out of 3,800, 100 books were there with the publisher, in the sense remaining 3,700 books were sold out. That is why here we have to write 3,700 books. ನಿಮಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಇಲ್ವ? ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಬಹಳ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಇದೆ. ಹೋದ ವರ್ಷದ ಏನು ಕ್ಲೋಸಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ ಇರುತ್ತೋ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಓಪನಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ ಅಂತ ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಂಡು ಆ ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಿಂಟ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದನ್ನ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ನಾವು ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಏನ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಆ ವರ್ಷ ಮಾರಾಟ ಮಾಡುವ ಸಲುವಾಗಿ ಇದ್ದಂತಹ ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳು ಎಷ್ಟಿದಾವೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಮಗೆ ಫಿಗರ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣವಾಗಿ ಮಾರಾಟ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಮಾರಾಟವಾಗದೇ ಇದ್ದಂತಹ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಪುಸ್ತಕದ ವಿವರವನ್ನ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾಗಿದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಇದರಿಂದ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಮೈನಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, 2010ರಲ್ಲಿ 100 ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳು ಉಳಿದಿದ್ದಾವೆ ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಆ 100 ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮೈನಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಇದು ಕ್ಲೋಸಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಇಯರ್ 2010. ಇದು ಮೈನಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಸಿಗುವಂತಹ ಫಿಗರ್ ಏನಿದು, ಈ ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾರಾಟ ಮಾಡಿದಂತಹ ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳು. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಈಸ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಇಯರ್ 2011. In the year 2011, what we have to do? First, we have to take the closing stock of the previous year. ಹೋದ ವರ್ಷದ ಕ್ಲೋಸಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಅದನ್ನು ಓಪನಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಈ ವರ್ಷ ತಗೊಳ್ಬೇಕು. 100 books were there in stock. Next one is in the year 2011, 3,650 books were printed. That we have to add here, 3,650 books. And total books for sale, 3,750 in the year 2011. Then out of this, 200 books were not sold. That is why stock is there, 200 books, that we have to minus from the total books which are available for sale. 3,750 minus 200, it comes to how much? 3,550 books. This one we have to take in the year 2011, 3,550. In case if the closing stock is given, that time you have to calculate number of copies sold by following this type of formula. What is the formula? Number of copies in stock plus number of copies printed minus closing stock. Okay. Now see, we found out the number of copies sold in 4 years. Now we'll calculate the actual royalty. What is the actual royalty? See the first adjustment, first condition, what it says, royalty payable at 20% on the sale price of the book, and sale price of the book is rupees how much? 30. 30 in the sense 20% of rupees 30. Rupees 30 is to be taken as royalty per book. It comes to how much? Rupees 6. 20% of rupees 30 comes to rupees 6. This rupees 6 should be taken as the royalty per book. Now what do we have to do? We calculate the actual royalty by applying this rate of royalty. It comes to how much? 6 5s are 30, 3 remains. 16,500 is the actual royalty here in the first year. Next one is here you calculate 18,900 in the next year. 22,200 in the third year. 21,300 in the year 2011. Just you have to check that one. Multiply the number of copies sold by 6, you get the actual royalty. Now you see, actual royalty is 16,500 in the first year and 18,900 in the second year, 22,200 in the third year and 21,300 in the fourth year. Now we have to take minimum rent which was fixed by the parties. See, minimum rent is how much? Rupees 20,000. For all the years we take 20,000, 20,000, 20,000 and 20,000. Next one is we have to find out deficit if any. In the first year you see 2008 actual royalty 16,500 and minimum rent is 20,000. Here author is going to accept 20,000. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 20,000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಪ್ಪಂದ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಪಬ್ಲಿಷರ್ ದ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿ ಕೊಡುವಂತಹದ್ದು ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ರೆಂಟ್ ಗಿಂತ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆದ್ರೆ ಅವನು ಎಷ್ಟು ಕೊಡಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ? ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ರೆಂಟ್ 20,000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಮೊದಲನೇ ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿ? 16,500 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ರೆಂಟ್ ಗಿಂತ ಇದು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದರಿಂದ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ, ಆಥರ್ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ದುಡ್ಡು ಕೊಡ್ಲಾಗ್ತದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ 20,000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ. ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ 20,000 is required to be given to the author. Now what is the deficiency here? How much deficit comes? 3,500 rupees. 3,500 rupees. See, 16,500 is the actual royalty. Instead of giving 16,500, here publisher is giving rupees 20,000 to the author. That is why here 3,500 is to be considered as a short working or deficit. 3,500. Then in the next year 18,900 is the actual royalty and 20,000 is the minimum rent. Here also deficit is there. That deficit we have to calculate and author will get in the second year also rupees 20,000. Here deficit is how much? 2,100. 2,100. Not 2,100. This is 1,000. What is the total? 18,900 means 1,100 it comes. 1,100 rupees. Next one is in the third year 22,200 and 20,000 is there. 20,000 is the minimum rent. Here actual royalty is more than the minimum rent. Therefore, here the author has authorized the publisher to recover the short workings out of the next 2 years. Try to understand the point here. Each year's excess of minimum amount over the actual royalties is recoverable out of the royalties of the next 2 years. Next 2 years in the sense, suppose in the first year deficit is there, short working is there, rupees 3,500. This can be recovered out of the excess royalties of the next 2 years. It means 2010 is the last year to recover the short workings of the year 2008. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಪ್ಪಂದದ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಏನಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಮೊದಲನೇ ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಅವನು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು, ಪಬ್ಲಿಷರ್ ಮುಂದಿನ 2 ವರ್ಷಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿಲಿಂದ ರಿಕವರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದಾನೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ 2010ರಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿ ಇದೆ. ಎಷ್ಟು ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿ ಇದೆ ರೀ? 2,200 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿ ಇದೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ, ಮೊದಲನೇ ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ 3,500 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಏನಿದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಇದೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ 2,200 ರೂಪಾಯಿಯನ್ನ ಅವ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬಹುದು, ಪಬ್ಲಿಷರ್ ರಿಕವರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಚಾನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಹಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ರಿಕವರ್ rupees how much? 2,200 in the year 2010. This is the last year to recover this 3500. ಇದೇನಿದೆಲ್ಲ 3500 ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಅನ್ನ ರಿಕವರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಸಲುವಾಗಿ ಇದು ಕೊನೆಯ ವರ್ಷ. This is the last year. That is why whatever excess royalty is there, that he will recover. And remaining amount ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ 1300. Out of 3500 he recovers 2200, and remaining balance of rupees 1300 is to be shown in the irrecovery column. This is a loss to the publisher. This loss we transfer to profit and loss account. Profit and loss account is debited and short working account is to be credited. And here author gets how much again? Rupees 20,000 as his royalty. Next, in the year 2011, again here 1300 is the excess royalty. See how much excess royalty is there? Minimum actual royalty is 21,300, minimum rent is 20,000, 1,300 is the excess royalty. This excess royalty can be applied to recover the short workings of the second year. Why? Because 2009, in the year 2009, short working is there, rupees 1,100. This can be recovered either from the excess royalties of the year 2010 or from the excess royalties of the year 2011. But in the year 2010, excess royalty is already applied to recover the short workings of the first year, but even that amount was not sufficient. Hence what we have done, 1300 we have transferred to profit and loss account. That is why it is shown in the recovery column. And 2011 is the last year to recover the short workings of the year 2009. 2009 ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಅದನ್ನ ರಿಕವರಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಸಲುವಾಗಿ 2011 ಏನು ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿ ಇದೆಯೋ ಇದು ಕೊನೆಯ ವರ್ಷ ಈ ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿಯನ್ನ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ ನೋಡ್ರಿ, ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ 1100 ಮಾತ್ರ ಇದೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ 1300 ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ರಾಯಲ್ಟಿ ಇದೆ. ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣ ದುಡ್ಡನ್ನ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ರಿಕವರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬಹುದು 1100. And the remaining balance is given to whom? To the author. See, out of 21,300, try to understand here, out of 21,300, 1,100 is recovered, and remaining amount of rupees 20,200 is given to the author. 20,200 is the amount which is given to the author. This is the way how we have to prepare a royalty chart. I hope you understood the concept. Okay, now we will pass the journal entries with the help of this table. In the year 2008, just you see the table, actual royalty is less than the minimum rent. Actual royalty is 16,500 and minimum rent is 20,000. Therefore, whenever the royalty is payable to the author, we pass one entry. What is the entry here? Royalty account is debited. Royalty account is debited, and short workings account is also debited. Short workings account is also debited to author's account. To author's account. Here royalty account is debited with the amount of actual royalty. You look to the table, 16,500, and short working is 3,500, and amount payable to the author, last column, rupees 20,000. Simply write being royalty payable to the author, payable rupees how much? 20,000. This is the first journal entry. Next one is, whenever cash is paid to the author or when the royalty amount is paid, we pass journal entry. Author's account is to be debited and cash account is to be credited. Author's account is debited and cash account is to be credited. Very simple thing. How much amount? 20,000 and 20,000. Being cash paid, simply write the narration, being cash paid. And you remember, at the end of every year, royalty account is closed by transferring the balance to the profit and loss account. Therefore, here when the royalty is transferred to P&L account, P and L account is to be debited. Why it is debited? Because royalty is the amount of expense to the publisher. Therefore, he charge it to his profit and loss account. Because of that reason, royalty amount is debited to the profit and loss account. P and L account is debited with the amount of rupees 16,500 actual royalty. Next one is to royalty account. To royalty account rupees 16,500. You see here, royalty account is debited here and here royalty account is credited. Now royalty account gets closed. Here you write the narration being royalty transferred to P and L account. To P and L account. These are the entries in the year 2008. Now in the year 2009, again actual royalty is less than the minimum rent. Again short working account will come. Whenever the royalty is payable, same entry we need to pass here. Royalty account is debited with the amount of actual royalty 18,900. Next one is short workings account is debited. Short workings account is also debited with the amount of short workings and amount payable to author, to authors account. To authors account, rupees how much? Rupees 20,000. Here you write the same narration for this also, being royalty payable, including what? The short workings. Next one is when the payment is made to the author, what is the journal entry? Author's account is debited because he is the receiver of the benefit. Author's account is debited to cash account. How much amount he gets in the second year? Again, rupees 20,000. Write the same narration, being cash paid to author. And the third entry is, again as usual, at the end of the year 2009, royalty account is closed by transferring it to P and L account. That is why same journal entry we need to pass here. Profit and loss account is debited with the amount of actual royalty to royalty account. To royalty account. You write the narration being royalty account is closed by transferring the balance to P and L account, or simple you can write being royalty transferred to P and L account. And come to the year 2010. In the year 2010, you see the table, actual royalty is more than the minimum rent. Here recovery is there rupees 2,200 and irrecovery is there rupees 1,300. That is why you have to be very careful while passing the journal entries here, because whatever amount is recovered, that amount is required to be adjusted here. Okay, first journal entry, see here short working is not there, only royalty is there, actual royalty 22,200. That is why here simple journal entry we have to pass. What is that? Royalty account is debited. No need of taking short workings account here. To authors account. To authors account. This is the due entry 22,200, being royalty payable. Being royalty payable rupees 22,200. Second entry is for the payment of cash when the royalty is paid to the author. Here before making the payment, what the publisher will do, he will recover his short workings. After that, remaining balance will be paid to the author, but the amount which is being given here should not be less than the minimum rent. That you have to keep in mind. Okay, when cash is paid, what journal entry do you pass? Who is the benefit, what you call receiver of the benefit? Author. Author's account is to be debited here. Author's account is debited with the amount of rupees 22,200. Are we going to give 22,200 to the author? No. What we are going to give? Less than that. Why? Because we are going to recover the short workings of the previous year. To short workings account, we are going to recover short workings. How much amount is recovered? You see 2,200. 2,200. See, out of 22,200, 2,200 is recovered as a short working. Next one is remaining amount is given to the author to cash account. To cash account, rupees how much? 20,000. Being cash paid, after after the recovery of short workings. But here full recovery is not made because the excess royalty is not sufficient to recover the full short workings. Only 2,200 was recovered and rupees 1,300 is the irrecovered amount. Therefore, what is to be done here? This one also transferred to profit and loss account. Okay, first we will close the royalty account. As usual, what do we do at the end of the year? Royalty account is transferred to P&L account with the amount of actual royalty 22,200 to royalty account 22,200. Same narration you have to write. Next one is in the irrecovery column 1,300 is there. What is this? If the short working is not recovered, this is considered as a loss to the publisher. What the publisher will do? He will transfer this one to his P&L account. Therefore, what journal entry we pass here? This is also a charge to the profit and loss account. Profit and loss account is debited with the amount of rupees 1,300 to short workings account rupees 1,300. What narration do you write? Being irrecovered short workings transferred to profit and loss account or debited to profit and loss account. These are the journal entries in the year 2010. Now, last year, in the year 2011, we'll pass the entries. 2011, first entry. See, in the year 2011 also, actual royalty is more than the minimum rent. Therefore, here only royalty account is to be taken. Royalty account is debited to author's account. Give entry to author's account. What is the amount? Actual royalty 21,300 and 21,300. You write the narration being royalty payable to the author. Next one is when the payment is made to the author, that time you check the recovery column and the recovery column. If the amount is there, that you need to adjust here. When the payment is made to the author, author is the receiver of the benefit. Author's account is to be debited. You write rupees 21,300. Are we going to give rupees 21,300 to the author in the form of royalty? No. Why? Because in the year 2011, recovery column is showing rupees 1,100. Means here short workings of the year 2009 were recovered in the year 2011. After the recovery of rupees 1,100, remaining balance we are giving to the author. Here you write to short workings account. How much amount was recovered? 1,100. And what is the remaining balance? 20,200 was paid in the form of cash to the author. Being cash paid after recovering short workings. This is the way how we have to pass the journal entries in the books of the publisher. I hope you understood the journal entries. If any doubt is there, you can also send the message and try to share this video even to your friends so that they can also get the benefit of this. Okay, thank you.